How many things do you think Coach Steele and Coach Gaddis will hold back the first 4 games of the year? Well, here's a great response to that. Not much. I think that they can hold things back the first 2 weeks. Not saying you empty the kitchen sink against A&M, but see, it's not overblown that people hold things for later on in the season. It's mainly because you, depending on you being a new coach or you being around for a bit, or you like that kind of stuff really helps the teaching process, guys. That's where we get a lot of when it comes to these play calls, the offensive coordinator has to have confidence that these young men can execute the play call. Okay, these young men aren't robots. They don't just go out there because you hit square, axe Madden, uh, slants, and hit square. That they're gonna go out there and run it exactly perfect like it does on Madden or NC Dub sometimes. You have to rep these things in practice against the look that your scout team gives you or against your first team defense. Well, if the coach doesn't feel confident in the play call because the young men can't even execute it in practice, what makes you think they're going to go out there and call it when they're actually counting stats and there's a clock up there? It's not much. The level is not high at all. All right. So most times they don't necessarily hold a bunch back. They just don't, the confidence isn't there just yet. All right. The confidence isn't there just yet. Now, that happens over time. It grows over time. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. But at face value, it really doesn't happen that often. Okay. Now, you could hold certain things and be very vanilla and basic in your approach the first 2 games of the season. But you have to be able to spring a trap, all right, on Texas A&M because they are going to. I'm gonna tell you this: what they have already done is broken down Josh Gaddis at Michigan. They've already broken him down because there's nothing for them to go off of him at Miami because the spring game was extremely vanilla and trash. Okay, absolute utter trash. Okay, that you can't leave that on there. You have to understand that these coaches, when it comes to reviewing film or putting something out there, sometimes you could over review, right? So what you would do as an offensive coordinator is you'll put a play out there. Let's say, for example, you got the tight end running a nice little bubble to pull a linebacker in, and the slot receivers running, let's say, a deep over to get right over the linebackers, but not too far where the safeties can address them. And then you do like a post where you attack the safety. Okay. Well, you could really mess with their heads, and they're like, "Oh, they come out in this formation. This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. This is gonna happen." Okay, cool. You may rush around and have your tight end do the same thing. Have your slot receiver do the same deep over. Have your outside X do a post. But now we got a sluggo out from the tight end. Okay, let me draw up what I'm talking about. Give you an example of what I mean. Right. So you all were able to visualize the first one, but I'll give you a visual aid. I'll write it up for you. Okay. So let's say the tight end here, slot X. All right. Linebacker here, addressing the tight end. Then let's say you got a safety playing over top over here, and then you got a corner playing over here, right? So curl to hold him, deep over to hold him, post to hold him, right? That's what we talked about, right? Okay. So let's say, for example, you have that. This is just something simple, right? You can even get fancy with it. And instead of having that inline tight end, now he Steps off the line, motions over, and more of a slot look. Okay. Because that's going to force them to address it differently in that way. So then that linebacker will still have to come out, but now this safety has to pick who. What am I going to adjust to? Who am I going to help? Am I going to help the corner on this post to have it over top? Okay, so now that safety has to scoot a little bit over also. So now I said like a curl out, right? Or curl go, right? So what I mean by that is that curl now turns into more of a wheel outside, right? Now, of course, you need pass protection and blah, blah, blah to be able to do this, but you look at that, and on film, that linebacker might jump that simple curl because they expect that to come. But now you done got over top of them. Now that safety is running out with that deep over, or trying to pick between whether they want to step up or step back to help with the post. Okay, those are little tweak things that you see coaches would do to switch things up. Hey, we put on film that when we come out of this, we run this play, and this is the route combo, right? Well, film is a big thing nowadays. All right, film is huge. So his DB coach, this defensive coordinator, is going to hammer home to these young men what route combinations you can expect out of certain formations based on what we put on film. But again, they're already breaking down Coach Josh Gaddis's best plays, his average plays, his most frequent plays, his red zone plays from the season before at Michigan. That's what they are going to go off of. Then they're going to mix it in with what he could do at Miami. Now, this is the stuff that you do in the spring. This is stuff you do in the off season because A&M doesn't have big games either before us. All right, we're their kind of first test. All right. Now we did something uh, offensive wise that you could do to really, really throw somebody off. Right. So now let's do it defensively. Right. So let's say, for example, when it comes to how we would play a certain coverage, right? So let's say we got our LB here, we got our strong safety here, we got our corner over here, right? And let's say we're going up against 11 personnel, all right? So we'll say 11 personnel and 3-by-1, technically tight end makes the third. So same kind of formation, slot wide receiver, an X wide receiver, and a tight end, right? Now let's say, for example, we put on film. We always put on film that we go, the first 2 weeks, we go man in this. Okay. Let's say, for example, we put on film the strong safety is on that slot, the corner has the wide receiver, and the linebacker has the tight end, right? Cool. But then we get in the game where, hey, we come out of this, we might even do the same hand signals just to throw them off. Hey, 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 hey. Pat your chest. Me, man, right? But it was a spring of trap. We're actually in cover three. Now, that linebacker is the hole. The strong safety is alley flat, and the corner is deep thirds. So you think that out route that you really want to run with the tight end is wide open because you think it's man, and you trust your tight end on a linebacker, right? Because more likely than not, they look at it as what? A mismatch. Okay. So let's say you try to run off. Let's say, for example, they tried to do a slant here and a slant here and an out here, right? Because they want to run off the DBs and allow that tight end to go one-on-one with the linebacker and make him miss in open space. They expect him to be more athletic. Well, it's actually cover three. So when that quarterback takes that second step off of his drop back and tries to throw that out, all he sees is number 0, Avante Williams, number 0, James Williams, flying down and reading that out perfectly and hopping right in front of that thing. Right? Visual aid for you. All you see is big old 6'5" number 0 flying down and catching that ball in stride. And they're striking the band up. Da, 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 go Canes, blah, blah, blah. Those are just little nuances that you would do just to make it hard on and it's basic. I mean, coaches get real extreme with this, and we call it like spring a trap and blah blah blah. So just to give you all a visual aid of some of the things I was talking about. But thank you so much for asking this question. We got a lot of folks in the house. Near and dear good friend of mine, Coach Hayes, is in the house. What's up, Coach? Good to see you. Yeah, man. I had to bring out the whiteboard and let them know